One cold evening in 1977, the studio lights glowed over the stage of The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. The audience laughed as Johnny Carson delivered his famous opening monologue. But backstage, a different kind of moment was quietly unfolding. Waiting behind the curtain was John Wayne. The legendary cowboy actor was older now. His once powerful frame looked thinner after years of illness and battles with cancer. Yet when he stepped into the hallway, every crew member still stood a little straighter. To America, John Wayne wasn't just an actor. He was strength itself. Johnny had invited Wayne onto the show many times before, but tonight felt different. As the band played Wayne's entrance music, the audience erupted into thunderous applause. John Wayne walked slowly onto the stage in his trademark cowboy hat, smiling that familiar rough smile. Johnny stood up immediately and shook his hand with both of his own. "Good to see you, Duke," Johnny said softly. "Good to be here, partner," Wayne replied. The crowd laughed warmly, but Johnny noticed something few others did. Wayne's hands trembled slightly. The interview began with jokes and stories from Hollywood. Wayne told tales about filming westerns in brutal desert heat. He teased Johnny about being too skinny to survive in cowboy country. The audience roared with laughter again and again. But then Johnny leaned forward. "You've been through a lot lately," he said carefully. "How are you really doing?" For a moment, the studio became silent. John Wayne looked down at his hands. The tough cowboy image faded, and suddenly he looked like an old man carrying heavy years on his shoulders. "Well," Wayne said quietly, "you spend your whole life playing heroes. Then one day you realize you're just a man." The audience fell completely still. Johnny didn't interrupt. Wayne continued, his voice slower now. "I used to think strength meant never being afraid, but sickness teaches you something different. Real strength is waking up every morning scared and still moving forward." Johnny Carson's smile disappeared. He simply nodded. Wayne glanced toward the audience. "I've made a lot of movies," he said, "but the thing I'm proudest of is the people who stood beside me when the cameras stopped rolling." A woman in the front row wiped tears from her eyes. Johnny then surprised everyone. "You know," he said, "people see John Wayne as this giant American legend, but backstage, you've always been one of the kindest men to our crew." Wayne looked genuinely embarrassed. Johnny continued, "When one of our stagehands lost his son last year, you called him personally. You didn't tell anybody, you just did it." The audience softly applauded. Wayne cleared his throat and looked away, emotional. "Well, people ought to help each other," he muttered. Then came the moment no one expected. Johnny reached beneath his desk and pulled out an old black and white photograph. It showed a young John Wayne standing beside a much younger Johnny Carson during Wayne's first appearance on the show years earlier. The crowd smiled warmly. Johnny looked at the photo for a long moment. "You've meant a lot to this country," he said, "more than you probably know." Wayne stared at the picture silently. His eyes glistened. For several seconds, neither man spoke. Finally, Wayne looked at Johnny and said quietly, "Thank you, friend." The audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation. Not for a movie star, not for a cowboy, but for a man facing the hardest battle of his life with dignity. As the applause echoed through the studio, Johnny Carson gently placed a hand on Wayne's shoulder. And for one unforgettable moment, late-night television stopped being entertainment. It became something real.